Hello viewers, dear students. Today in this video we are again discussing the second part of Deep Water, your lesson number 3rd of Flamingo book written by William O. Douglas. In my previous video I discussed the first part of the lesson in which we discussed the half of the text of your lesson. Now in this video we are going to discuss the second part of the chapter and the text related to or the remaining text of the lesson. We left in the earlier video where William Douglas met with a misadventure. He was nearly drowning in the YMCA pool, and in that part William Douglas discusses how he developed an aversion towards water, his childhood experience, and when he was 10 to 11 years old, what he experienced at YMCA pool when he started learning swimming. In this video, we will continue after that, where William Douglas vowed or promised himself that he will never go back to any water body. Now, let's begin with the second part of the text. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or bumping river or bathing in warm lake of the Goat Rocks, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. In this beginning paragraph, we will discuss how William Douglas is feeling when he goes near any water body. William Douglas is telling that after few years of that incident that happened at YMCA pool, he wanted to start his water sports again. He wants to start going near to the water bodies, but whenever wading means walking through, whenever he starts walking through Titan or any bumping river or bathing in any of the lake, here the warm lake of the Goat Rocks, the old terror starts taking hold of William Douglas, and his fear comes back. He feels as if that fear has taken a complete possession of him. His legs start paralyzing whenever he goes near any water body. An icy horror. He feels as if he is cold like ice, and this horror grabs his heart completely. This handicap stayed with him for many years, rolled by means coming by, in canoes on main lakes fishing for landlocked salmon, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metolius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of water followed me. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating, and swimming. William Douglas says that handicap here is the fear of water. This fear of water, which makes him handicapped, remained with him for many years. He was deprived of, he was not able to enjoy fishing for salmon, bass, trout, Oregon. All these are the species of fish This part tells us that William Douglas is very fond of fishing and other kind of water sports like canoeing, boating and swimming. So ruined is here destroyed and Cascades is waterfall. So William Douglas is telling that he is now unable to enjoy any kind of water sport, his boating and fishing, and his life is he is feeling as if his life is completely destroyed. He is away from all kind of pleasures of life, the real pleasures he is fond of like fishing, swimming and boating. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. In this particular part of the lesson, we are going to discuss the efforts made by William Douglas to learn swimming. William Douglas, as we have seen, he was very fond of swimming and fishing and boating. So he put up all his courage and he made a next attempt to learn swimming. For this, he hired an instructor. One October, he hired an instructor and he started to learn swimming. Now, what strategies was put in by the instructor as well as Douglas to overcome this fear of water? In this particular part of the story, we are going to discuss that, and also this particular paragraph tells us the different efforts made by the instructor to convert a fearful person into a good swimmer. So let's start again. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of panic seized me. Each time, the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under. Some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Slack is here weaken. So after putting all the efforts, after putting different strategies, now instructor is making Douglas to learn swimming, and here in the beginning he attached a rope with a belt which was attached to a pulley through an overhead cable. Through this, William Douglas started his swimming. Then the end of the rope was there in the hand of the instructor, and with the help of that, William Douglas developed a confidence and started going back and forth, going and coming back across the pool. Hour after hour, he increased time, and day after day, week after week, he started learning swimming in a better way. But in every trip, whenever he was going across the pool, a kind of a tinge of a small amount of panic or that fear used to grab William Douglas's mind. But every time when it was there, instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and went under. some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. And whenever the rope was loosened and the instructor's hold was loosened, William Douglas felt the same terror, and he felt as if his terror has returned. His legs started freezing at that juncture, and he felt as if somebody is pulling him again inside water. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me, and when my head went underwater. Though William Douglas was putting all his courage, all his effort to remove his tension of water, to remove his tension of drowning, now his fear was lessened a little. But whenever he put his face inside water and he tried to exhale, he sometimes that old fear returned. So he worked very hard again, and now the instructor told him how to inhale and exhale. William Douglas repeated this exercise hundreds of times to shed his panic, to shed his fear. The fear, whenever he put his head under water, he feels as if that fear has seized him again and again. Next, he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks, I did just that. At first, my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally I could command them. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In this part of the text, William Douglas is under the training of the instructor, and here the instructor told him to kick his legs and make the movement further. But whenever William Douglas tried to do that, his legs refused to work. But gradually, slowly, his legs got relaxed, and he felt as if now he could command his legs. Thus, piece by piece, in this way, the instructor made different parts, different strokes perfect, and when he perfected each piece, when he perfected each exercise, each drill, then he put them all into an integrated whole. Into one means the complete swimming with different strokes, and then he said to William Douglas that now he is ready to swim and in any of the water body. So first of all, he told William Douglas to dive off. All of you must be aware of diving. From a particular place, we used to jump into the swimming pool. So diving off and then swimming the length of the pool, crawl stroke. And during his swimming in the pool, William Douglas was getting instructions by the instructor, and in this way he tried it with confidence. I did his here describing that William Douglas is now gathering his confidence. The instructor was finished. Now the instructions that instructor was giving to William Douglas was finished. Please continue with the text. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken. When I was alone in the pool, I tried it. I swam the length up and down, tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. But now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me, ugh, well, here is to you, look, and off I'd go for another length of the pool. William Douglas was consistently practicing the instructions given by the instructor, but still, when he was alone at the pool, he felt the same terror of the old times. Once he swam the length up and down, he swam across the pool. Tiny vestiges, tiny remains of the old terror would return. But whenever the terror returns, William Douglas says to the terror, you are trying to scare me, huh? Means now you cannot scare me. The terror, you must be aware, you must go away from here, because now William Douglas felt confident. Whenever he was in a little fearful state, then he used to gather the confidence again by making frown, by becoming angry to himself that why he is facing the same terror. This went on until July. So students, here you see the instructor was hired in the month of October, and now this is the month of July. So the instructions and the practice continued till July. But I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left. So I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off the dock at Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampact Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once did the terror return. When I was in the middle of the lake, I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? It fled and I swam on. So, to confirm that his terror is now completely removed, William Douglas went to Lake Wentworth, which is in New Hampshire. In my next video, I will show you the map of this particular area of Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, which is having 7 islands in that. So let's see here that William Douglas, he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, and he started from Triggs Island. He swam 2 miles and reached Stampact Island. In this particular journey of swimming, he used crawl, stroke, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once during these 2 miles swimming, only once his terror returned, and at that William Douglas again put up his courage. He used his willpower and he said to his own fear of water that no, you are not going to scare me now. And when he faced his terror, his fear with confidence, it fled and he swam on. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Titan to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek, trailed to Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Warm Lake. The next morning I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back, just as Doc Ortron used to do. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. Even after this incident, William Douglas was not sure that he has now completely removed his fear of water. So again, he went to different water bodies to confirm that now his fear is completely removed. Next morning, he went to um, warm lake, and there he swam across the lake to the other shore and reached the other shore. He shouted with joy. And Gilbert Peak is here, the mountain. So in the mountainous area, you know that echo sound comes back. So in this way, he was very happy that he has now completely conquered his fear of water. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. Here, William Douglas is telling us that only those people who have some kind of terror and they have overcome that particular fear, only they can understand that overpowering or overcoming any fear has what kind of satisfaction, has some kind of solace. So here he said, in death there is peace, there is terror only in the fear of death. As Roosevelt knew when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. Here he is quoting the words of Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president of USA, and here he is saying all we have to fear is fear itself. He is giving us the message that fear is only the life of fear is only till the person feels it, and it is very psychological. Once the person has strong determination and willpower, the fear is completely disappear, the fear can completely disappear. So here I had experienced both. William Douglas is discussing that he has experienced both kind of sensation, the sensation of dying as well as the fear of that particular sensation produced in someone. At last I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. When William Douglas was completely confirmed that now his fear has removed, then he felt released, he felt free to walk in trials in any of the water body, and he has now completely won over his fear. He has put aside his fear, and now he has learned to enjoy his life, enjoy swimming, enjoy water sports that he was fond of. Now, as I told you just now, that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Franklin D. Roosevelt, he was very commonly known as FDR, was an American politician who served as the 32nd President of the United States from 1933 till 1945. These are the words spoken by Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said that all we have to fear is fear itself. It means in reality all our terrors and fears are psychological, and the same can be won over. The strong will, hard determination, courage and toil, toil means hard work here, as well as honest labor win over all our terrors and fears. The will to live brushes aside all our fears. So this is the message of this lesson, that by strong determination and willpower and honest labor, any kind of fear or terror can be overcome can be won over. Now the difficult word meanings which we have underlined during our reading. First word is cascades, waterfall. Seized is caught hold. Wading, walking through the water. Ruined, destroyed. Slack, become less. Vestiges, signs. Stripped, took off clothes. Creek, a narrow area of water. Meadow, grassland. Trials, tracks or paths. Brush aside is throw away. Now the questions for your assignment. First is short answer type of questions which has an answer of 30 to 40 words. Question number 1 is how did this handicap ruin his trips fishing and boating? This handicap is here, the fear of water, the terror of water, and how this terror ruined William Douglas's trips of fishing and boating. Now question number 2, what did the instructor do with the rope and the pulley and with what effect? How did the instructor teach him to exhale and inhale? But I was still not satisfied. What did he do to satisfy himself? Here in question number 4, you have to discuss the incident of Lake Wentworth, the swimming of 2 miles at Lake Wentworth. Question number 5, how did he finally conquer his fear of water? What was the condition of his body when he was underwater in the pool? Now the long answer type of questions, the word limit of the answers of such questions will be 120 to 150 words. Question 1 is how did the fear haunt him for years after the misadventure at the YMCA pool? How did Douglas finally overcome his fear of water? Question 2 is Douglas describes a childhood experience of his terror and his conquering of that terror. What large meaning does he draw from this experience? What message does he want to convey to the readers? So, this is the assignment part. You all try to answer such question on the basis of your understanding.